Let's turn to Micah chapter 7. This chapter has been a common companion to me over the past years, and I want to draw from some of its help. For it's written in a day like ours, to a people who have an experience as many of you do. And I think you'll see that as soon as I begin to read. I would note, though we'll be preaching it another day, how glorious the conclusion of this chapter is as it exults in the grace of God, especially his grace to forgive. Micah 7. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. And the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire. So they wrap it up. The best of them is as a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh. Now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoreth the father. The daughter riseth up against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Therefore, I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her. Now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. In the day that thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. In that day also he shall come even to thee from Assyria, and from the fortified cities, and from the fortress even to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thine heritage, which dwell solitarily in the wood in the midst of Carmel. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead as in the days of old. According to the days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt, will I show unto him marvelous things. The nations shall see and be confounded at all their might. They shall lay their hand upon their mouth, their ears shall be deaf. They shall lick the dust like a serpent. They shall move out of their holes like worms of the earth. They shall be afraid of the Lord our God, and shall fear because of thee. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity, and passeth by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. He will turn again. He will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. Thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. 2 weeks ago, here in the prayer meeting, we considered from Jeremiah 9 how we had cause to weep with the prophet for the sad state of the church and nation. In this chapter, we return to a similar theme and to a practical question that comes to us in such a day of declension, in which so many men are unfaithful. Whom can we trust? For many of you, past wrong answers to this question have left you in perplexity. Perhaps even now you have trouble trusting anyone. Indeed, if even those we thought we had good cause to trust have proved untrustworthy, then whom can we trust at all? The answer of our text is, at least in its words, no one. And through that text, we'll learn the wisdom of whether and of how and in whom to put our trust. So let's consider the text. It comes in a circumstance, as I said, of great declension. Verses 2-4 speak of everyone being evil. The good man is perished out of the earth. There's no more good man. There is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They're all murderers. They are eager to do evil. Verse 3, and even the great ones, the princes and the judges, they're asking for bribes. The best of them is as a briar. So there may be some that have some reputation for being great and noble, but they're like a briar, and the most upright, so-called, is sharper than a thorn hedge. And for all this, a visitation comes. It is a visitation of wrath, which will bring them into perplexity. Verse 6, after our text, explains why our text is there. For the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. In such declension, our text is a threefold warning against trusting even men who normally we would trust. First, a friend. A friend is nothing if not trustworthy. This is what a true friend is. He's trustworthy, and his trustworthiness is proved in trouble. Proverbs 17:17, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Well, these friends have stopped loving, and these brothers are not born for adversity. The adversity is here, and they are nowhere to be found. And such friends are not to be trusted in. Second, a guide. That is someone whose task it is, whether by office or simply by being a proven help, leads you in the right path. And it says, put ye not confidence in a guide, the very thing that you would want to put in a guide, because he's worthy of confidence. It says, in this day, not so. Those who propose that they are guides are lying, and you'll find out that if they guide you, it will not be in the right direction. Psalm 55, as a prophecy of our Lord Jesus and of the experience of Christians in him, says this. Verse 12, it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance. Someone whom I look to for sound counsel and wisdom. And no doubt one reason that he looked to him was because he gave it. There were many times in which his counsel proved sound. And when I considered the words of this friend and followed in the path that he laid out, it was good for me. And as far as I could tell, brought glory to God. And yet now, it says, we took sweet counsel together and walked into the house of God in company, but now we're enemies. He has reproached me, and he goes on to pronounce curses upon this former friend in God. So put ye not confidence in a guide. But then third, and most striking of all, keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Many men have the experience of a faithful wife in whom they can confide reasonably. Now, this is not a total permission or encouragement to put every burden upon your wife. It's a man. It's not kind to her. And it also can violate your vocation if there are some things that you need to keep private even from your wife. But generally, a wife, a good wife, is a trustworthy companion, and you can speak to her about the things that concern you. And here it's saying, don't do that. Your mouth has a door, and when it opens, words come out. And it says, keep it shut, even from her that lieth in thy bosom. So you are as intimate as possible with this woman physically, but make sure you don't have undue intimacy in how you speak. Because however sweet she seems to you, she's going to betray you. She'll abuse those words, like Delilah took advantage of Samson and encouraged her to put confidence in him and use that confidence for his destruction. This is very sad, and it is against the expectation that God has for marriage. The wife in Proverbs 5:18 is called the wife of thy youth. My old friend, the one whom I've known for years and has been with me through thick and thin. And God has said of marriage, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. And it's as if, even though she's lying in his bosom, they're miles apart. They can't trust each other. Keep the door of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Now, in all three of these, there's something implied but not stated. That these generally are people you should trust in, but in this case, they are not. I trust you see this is not an absolute command in every circumstance. Never trust your friends, never trust your guides, never trust your wife. In any way, at any time, for any reason. No, it comes in this circumstance of declension, in which men, even the men close to us, are proving themselves untrustworthy. And so it is an emphatic and situational command that has a general principle that applies in every circumstance, even the best, and even with good friends, guides, and wives. It's this: we must never put our trust in those who are untrustworthy. We must never put our trust in those who are untrustworthy. Now, the text makes this clear to us, but I want to make it even clearer on two foundations proving this. The first foundation is God, because God alone is totally faithful and therefore totally worthy of your total trust. You can trust totally in God, and he will never fail because he is, as Paul says, the God who cannot lie. He can never be unfaithful. We have, happily, in this church, a continual illustration before our eyes in our young children, and Lord willing, we'll have another one soon, who will illustrate this sweet thing to us, as it's laid out in Isaiah 49:15. Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. This is a great answer to our text. Even more than a man might trust the wife that lieth in his bosom, how much more should the little baby trust the mom from whom he gets his life through her very body? But those may forget. God won't. God won't, even if friend and guide and wife and mother should fail. God does not. God alone is that trustworthy. Christ, who is God, is alone that trustworthy. He says, and only he can say, without any exception or qualification, Hebrews 13:5 to his people, I will never leave thee or forsake thee. He is that friend, Proverbs 18:24, that sticketh closer than a brother, in an absolute sense. So this is proof from God. We ought to trust in God absolutely and totally, but because men are not God, we can't trust in them that way. Even when we have some trust in them, we trust in them as creatures, not as the Creator. The second foundation, then, why we should never put our trust in those who are untrustworthy, is moving from God to men. Because men by nature are not trustworthy. At the very least, first, they're not trustworthy as creatures because they're not God. God is unlimited and totally faithful. Men are limited, and thus their faithfulness is limited, even among the most faithful men. No man, for example, can always be there for you. No man can say to you, I will never leave you or forsake you, because that man doesn't know when he will die, or when he'll be sick, or when he'll be delayed in traffic. A man can be in only one place at once. Only God can be wherever we go, whether I ascend to heaven or to hell or go to the farthest places of the earth. Psalm 139. Can never say that of a man. And a man cannot do all things as God can. Men are weak. And that means men simply cannot meet all your needs. If you tried to put a trust in the in the creature, as you put it in the Creator, he would always disappoint you, even the most faithful. But we're not just dealing with men who are not trustworthy by created nature. We are dealing with men who are untrustworthy by corrupted nature. It's not just that their faithfulness is limited because they're creatures. It's absent because they're sinners. Men who have not been converted have no true trustworthiness in them. Now, outwardly, they can have outward virtues and they can be trustworthy in some human or earthly sense. But this describes the heart of all men not saved by grace. Psalm 5, verse 9. For there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. This is quoted by Paul in Romans 3:13, as he labors to prove that all men are under sin. Now, conversion puts a new principle in man, but the remnants of that old, untrustworthy man are still there. And no doubt you've experienced this, both in the receiving and, sadly, in the giving, that men fail, even the best men. That even those who want to do the best, and even those who by grace do the best of all men, they don't do the best all the time because they sin. There's a sense in which we can apply in any circumstance what we heard in our chapter. The best of them is as a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. So we learn that we must never put our trust in those who are untrustworthy, and that's proved from God and from men by their created nature and their corrupted nature. So let's apply this. The first application, naturally, is that of warning. And there's a twofold warning here. One is a warning against naivety, being silly and hasty in putting trust in men, forgetting who men are, that they're not God, that they are creatures and they are corrupted. You should be warned to avoid naivety by being aware of its causes, of which I'll name three. One is a love for our own sin, which other men also do, so that when they commit the sins that we like to commit, we don't see that as a problem. In fact, sadly, in our sin, we can see it as a reason to trust in them because, oh, he's like me. He does the same things I like to do, even though those things are evil. And anyone that's doing evil for that reason should not be trusted. But, well, I do that too. I love my own sin. That's a cause of naivety. We're willing to overlook other sins because we're soft about our own. A second cause is familiarity. Oh, he's my friend. He's my guide. She's my wife. Oh, I know him. Oh, I grew up with him. Oh, he's my neighbor. He's my classmate. Well, mere familiarity and closeness, if you just think about it for a moment, proves nothing about a person's faithfulness. Just think of something like classmates. Many people will just be thrown together in a school by no choice of their own, happen to sit at the next desk, and just because you have proximity, that guy becomes your friend. Nothing about that chance, of course, under providence, but that chance coming together means that person is trustworthy. But you see, we tend to think people are trustworthy just because they're familiar to us. You think your next door neighbor is trustworthy because you see him all the time. This also is a twisted form of self-love because we think, well, he's close to me and I'm trustworthy, so he must be too. And we, in a naive sense, see our reflection in other people. Well, we could be wrong about ourselves regarding our untrustworthiness, but also we could be right and foolishly projecting our own trustworthiness on someone who's not trustworthy at all. And often these people you just were thrown together with will prove they never deserved your trust. So familiarity is one cause of naivety. The third is when people are in positions or offices of trust. This is a crisis, as they call it in our world today. We're under a crisis of trust. Just think of how many positions of trust are full of untrustworthy men today. Doctors, lawyers, presidents, lawmakers, even to some extent, policemen, teachers, ministers. Again, our day is a day to say the best of them is as a briar. The most upright among them is sharper than a thorn hedge. Even when it comes to people in positions of trust who themselves are trustworthy, there can be a naivety in how we trust them that is not worthy of approval. There are some who, for example, have a minister who, by God's standards, is trustworthy, and yet they trust him only because he is their minister and they go to his church. There's familiarity, there's mere position. And we just say, oh, of course, the pastor said it, it must be true. Or he's my pastor, of course I trust him. But why? The example of right trust in leaders in the church is that of the Bereans in Acts 17, verse 11. And God tells us precisely how to trust church authority. What did they do when the apostles came to preach? They searched the scriptures daily to see whether these things are so. They didn't merely take the apostolic word. Better said, they didn't merely take the word of Paul, the word of Peter, just because they seem to be great men and good speakers, and well, clearly they're in a position of trust. No, they went to the source. The same source the apostles pointed them to. The apostles approved of their doing this. And they determined that these men were not speaking their own words, but God's. And that's why they trusted them. Better said, that is one reason they trusted them, without which the second reason would be foolish. The second reason is they are in a position of trust. God gives real ecclesiastical authority, and we thank him for it. But if it doesn't have this first thing, agreement with the word of God, then the position means nothing. Not to say we diminish the office because a man abuses it. But we cannot trust a mere man. And when a man says something different from God in a position in which he's called the man of God, in that respect, he's not to be trusted. So naivety among men in positions of trust. We could illustrate it more in the civil sphere. And I would just note in Romans 13 that the civil magistrate is called a minister of God for good. Insofar as he's not a minister of God and not working for the good of this people, he's simply not a civil magistrate. He's just a man and not to be trusted in. So naivety is a first thing to warn, but a second thing is undue distrust. And this needs to be said lest we overcorrect. A popular term for this is cynicism, whereby you trust no one ever for any reason, even when he's trustworthy. You're not even willing to have someone's trustworthiness proved because, well, you already know everyone is untrustworthy. This would be a sin. It would be a denial of the grace of God in the world. It would be a denial of the kindness of God in keeping even unbelieving men somewhat trustworthy in some earthly things, at least. And it's confessed as a sin in the Bible. Psalm 116, verse 11. I said in my haste, all men are liars. You can imagine David has been pushed around by all sorts of untrustworthy men. And he wrongly concludes, well, so many men I did trust are now untrustworthy. Therefore, no one in the world is trustworthy. Everyone's a liar. Well, that would be hasty. And I would caution you against that. And on the same basis that I caution you against naivety, because both are solved by examination. When it comes to ministers, you examine them by the word of God. If they don't agree with the word, don't trust them. But if they do. Both are true, and both need to be said. And it does also need to be said that you cannot live without some trust in men, because total distrust is totally paralyzing. If it is true that no one around you in church or school or medicine or government is trustworthy in the slightest, then you need to find new people you can trust. Beware of the danger of a life in which you're content with no good church, no good school, no good doctor, no good government. This tempts us toward this kind of cynicism, and we need to take care in circumstances such as those. So first, a warning against naivety and against undue distrust. Second application is for comfort. When men fail, by contrast, because God is not a man that he should lie, the trustworthiness and faithfulness of our God shines all the more. And our passage, Micah 7, concludes after cataloging the untrustworthiness of all these men, even those very close to us, with verse 7, therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. So, my friend has failed me. My guide is not worth confidence. My own wife has betrayed me, and I can't trust her. But I can still trust God. I can still trust Christ, who said, I'll never leave thee or forsake thee. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. He said to all his faithful church who believe in him. And this is a special comfort in times like ours that are full of untrustworthy men. This was the comfort of Christ by prophecy in that psalm we read, Psalm 55. When he talked about his friend and guide who had betrayed him, he goes on to cry out to God for justice. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell. Verse 15, for wickedness is in their dwelling and among them. And notice then how he rests himself in this God who will judge. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. I may not be able to talk to any man because I'm afraid they'll use all my words against me, but I can talk to my God, and he'll always hear me. And I never have to worry that he's going to twist my words or bring them back against me. What a comfort. Our God is totally trustworthy. So trust him, even when men fail. And third and finally, in this comfort, I would encourage you, I would exhort you to be trustworthy. Even in an age when friends and guides and wives fail. If you are a friend, resolve today, you'll never be the one to fail another friend. If you're a guide, and I speak particularly to leaders in the family and in the church, be a man in whom your people ought to put confidence so that you can look them in the eye with a good conscience, say, trust me. Because you know, and they know, you've proven trustworthy. Every minister, every elder should be able in principle to do this. And wives, be trustworthy in your faithfulness to your husband, and be trustworthy in your discretion as well, that you would keep the door of your mouth so that he does not have to keep the door of his mouth unduly when he speaks to you. So take this passage even as a help, believing by grace it doesn't have to be this way, and that even in an age of great declension, at least in among those, that remnant that the Lord has preserved, we can be trustworthy. Let's stand and pray.